realize who the smartest person on the planet.
I'm making this video in response to the one I watched with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He doesn't understand time travel at my level. I mean, when I watched Back to the Future, I understood all this as I'm watching the movie unfold. It was very early that I realized that Marty McFly was in an alternate time zone already. Not one that he created, he was living in an alternate time zone that was created before. Totally irrelevant to the story we're being told, but the timeline that we were watching was not the original timeline. Because if it was the original timeline, he couldn't have changed it. Once the timeline goes down, it's done. It can't be changed. You can create an alternate timeline that is parallel to the original, but can be changed. And since Marty changed George in the arranged meeting, he was in an alternate timeline than the one that he left. One that he created when he crashed into the bomb. Now there's two timelines. One where a spaceman crashed into the timeline, changing the name of Lone Pine Farm. Is a different timeline than the one Marty grew up in. And you can see how that timeline can be changed. Okay, now, the flux capacitor makes time travel possible. The flux capacitor works like a transistor because it has 3 leads and capacitors has 2, so it's a really complex capacitor, but still, in the end, it's got to work like a transistor, taking the 1.21 gigawatts and capacitating it to create an energy field. Flux capacitor makes time travel possible. But time travel within the flow of time, it takes much more time and uses much more energy than jumping outside the flow of time and then jumping back in. Now this action is instantaneous for you because there is no time and outside the flow of time. Yeah, okay, and outside the flow of time. Right, there's only time inside the flow of time. It's like, going along Route 66 and getting lost so you can travel some of the old road, or just staying on the internet. One's going to use more energy and take less time, so you want to go outside the flow of time. Problem with that is, and this is like the really cool thing, matter cannot exist outside the fabric of space-time. Sorry, ain't no such way. Which is why time travel at light speed seem impossible, because you have to go outside the flow of space-time to do both, or either. Basically, that's how it works. Flux capacitor makes that possible. So matter it creates an energy shield, a warp bubble if you will, to enclose matter outside the fabric of space-time. It's like putting a ping pong ball in a helium balloon as it rises to the sky. It don't matter whether or not the ping pong ball is affected enough by gravity or pushed around by barometric pressures. It's inside its own little cocoon in which it exists. Same thing with celestial light and time travel. Same concept, different coordinates. By crashing into the bond, Marty created an alternate timeline where up until that point everything was the same, but now we have 2 timelines, one that Marty left that no one ever crashed into the bond, and the one that he's created, which here he is. This is all being witnessed by Professor Brown from the original time travel train that went back to 1955 to give himself the secret of time travel earlier, so he won't be too old to enjoy living in the Old West, which is why he made a time traveling train, so he can move around even without time traveling. Which also created an alternate timeline that parallels his timeline, where Hilldale history in his timeline is totally different than the one that becomes the alternate timeline. Back to the Future is a very complex story. It's like Star Wars, you started out in the middle. And once you have the middle established, you can have all sorts of prequels and alternate timelines. The same exact 1985 that Marty was in, except it's an alternate timeline. So it's the same era with the same motor vehicles and lifestyles, but, different personal stories. Well, I'm not about that. Okay, we're about the time travel thing here. So when I'm watching the movie and the things approaching 88 miles an hour. I mean, I realize this is why it's going to be moving. And I see the lightning bolts creating the energy field. There we go. You know, I understood it completely. It didn't have to be explained to me yet. Neil here doesn't get it. I really am as smart as I am. In fact, it's on my channel. You want to go into the movie playlist. You know, there are all sorts of franchise type movies in there. Waiting for the right person with the right connection to, you know, put together a little, I need somebody with the right connections. I mean, I hear they're making a Hogan's Heroes movie. Well, what they're doing, I don't care what it is, it can still be worked into it. My Hogan's Heroes, the movie is all about. Alright, I finally understand. I'm getting a lot of views on that because the people who see it might just think that this is what they're making. And it's not. And they're going to be disappointed with whatever comes out. Alright, I truly am the smartest person on the planet. I can think of things that nobody else can, even though it's right in front of their faces. Just like it is mine. Okay, I think that's enough. 5